Hello, everybody. Hope you're well on this Friday, October the 2nd. For the benefit of those listening on the audio, you are listening to my regular Ask James stream on a Friday afternoon on YouTube, where I welcome questions on anything football related from the YouTube community. We are 20 hours or so away from the game week 4 deadline at time of recording. And as ever on these streams now, we will start with confirmed team news for the weekend. So the game week starts with Chelsea against Crystal Palace. Frank Lampard has confirmed that Christian Pulisic will be in the squad for Chelsea this weekend, but he will not start. Not aware of any further injury news from the Blues. On Crystal Palace, Roy Hodgson says that Gary Cahill, James Tompkins, Patrick Van Arnholt and Jeff Schlupp could all return in game week 5, but they won't be available this weekend. On Nathan Ferguson, no known return date at the moment. He is still a way off from potentially putting pressure on Joel Ward in the right back position. Carlo Ancelotti has confirmed that Allen and Gomez will be out for Everton this game week. Gomez is a very, very minor injury, and both he and Allen should be back for the Merseyside derby in game week 5. For Brighton, no new known issues. Vitor Bissouma is back from his 3-game suspension and available for selection. I would suspect that he will come in for one of Alzate or Adam Lallana at Goodison Park tomorrow. For Leeds, Pablo Hernandez remains out. Jack Harrison is ineligible, as he's obviously on loan from opponents Manchester City. Alioski could deputise on the left-hand side for Leeds. For Manchester City, Gabriel Jesus could return for game week 5, but remains unavailable for this weekend. And Ruben Dias has settled good and part of the team, according to Pep Guardiola, so he's in contention for selection. For Newcastle, there are doubts over Jamal Lascelles and Emerald Craft ahead of their game with Burnley on Sunday evening. Alan St. Maximin should make it. Steve Bruce said that he could have potentially played at Newport in the Carabao Cup, but they decided not to take the risk. So St. Maximin should return. For Burnley, Ben Mee, Jack Cork, Jay Rodriguez remain unavailable. James Tarkowski played in midweek against Manchester City, so he is ready. And Sean Dyche confirms that Robbie Brady and Johan Berg Gudmundsson are touch and go. So one of them could even be available for that game tomorrow. That would be a benefit because they are missing attacking wide players at the moment. Leicester City of today confirmed the signing of 19-year-old centre-back Wesley Fofana from St Etienne, and Leicester are waiting for confirmation of if he can be available for selection on Sunday. Wouldn't expect him to start. Johnny Evans will be fine, according to Brendan Rodgers, who had a knock. Jamie Vardy also will be fine. Dennis Pratt is the one who will be assessed. Could mean a first league start of the season for James Maddison. And new signing Kenji's Under will be in the squad. For West Ham, Ryan Fredericks has a hamstring injury. Issa Diop could return, obviously back from his COVID illness. For Southampton, Ralph Hussenhartel, easy for you to say, says that Nathan Redmond is back in contention. He is an option for the weekend. Stavan Bedic has said that a late decision will be made on loan signing Krovinovic, and Branislav Ivanovic and Gallagher also could feature this weekend. For Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, again, a press conference heavily dominated by potential transfer news. Seems like it's going to be a big sort of 72 hours or so for Arsenal ahead of Monday's deadline. It seems like Saliba could be going back on loan. I understand there's been some personal issues, and he's lost a parent very recently as well. And they think him going back to France at his young age might be a suitable short-term solution for them. For Sheffield United, it looks like, according to Chris Wilder, not confirmed yet, but it looks like Rhian Brewster is heading to Sheffield United on a permanent transfer from Liverpool. Looks like there will be some sort of buyback clause inserted into that deal. But he won't be available for this weekend. Lys Mousset remains out. John Egan is back from a ban. Jack O'Connell has had a successful operation. I think it's on his knee, but he could be out for the remainder of the whole season. For Wolves, Nuno Santos says there will be late calls made on Markel and Podence. They will train again tomorrow ahead of that game on Sunday, but you're not going to get any confirmation on this ahead of deadline, unfortunately. For Fulham, Scott Parker confirms that Kenny Tete and Mario Lemina are both out. Harrison Reed is a doubt. Ademola Lookman will be involved. He made a brief cameo appearance at Brentford in the Carabao Cup, but he's probably unlikely to start. For Manchester United, no fresh injury news. There has been some speculation from a few quarters that there might be an issue with Bruno Fernandes, but we've not heard anything to make that sustainable. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer confirmed that Harry Maguire should be fit, despite what he described in quote as a hole in his ankle following the win at Brighton last weekend. For Tottenham, Giovanni Lo Celso is a doubt. He went off at half-time last night's 7-2 victory over Maccabi Haifa in Europa League playoff game. And Heung-min Son is not ruled out. I think it's unlikely, but the fact that Lucas Moura and Steven Bergwijn both played the 90 minutes last night makes me a little bit suspicious that Sonny might make it this weekend. For Aston Villa, Dean Smith says that Ross Barkley is in contention. Jack Grealish had a dead leg at Fulham, but should be okay. And for Liverpool, no fresh injury concerns from Jurgen Klopp. Jordan Henderson remains a doubt. That's your team news for the 20 clubs ahead of game week 4. Let's get into the YouTube chat, see what sort of questions we've got going on today. So Eric Fordham is in. He says, is Adams still a good option? He's just getting unlucky, or is he not up to Premier League standard in terms of finishing chances? And in your opinion, is he still cemented in the Saints team? Yes, still cemented in the Saints team. Yes, still a good option. Yes, Premier League standard. Yes, will score goals. Yes, I expect him to return tomorrow. Should he blank tomorrow, you're probably at the stage where you're going to want to start thinking of different things with them going to Chelsea in game week 5. But I think Che Adams is still absolutely a very reasonable option for your FPL teams. If I still had him, he'd be staying up this weekend. I wouldn't have a doubt about it. Eric also says, sorry to ask. You shouldn't be sorry. You're asking it, mate. Have a second. He has Werner and Mitro with 1 free transfer. Would you hold either of them? If no, Werner to Ings or Jimenez, a Mitro to Adams or Wood, can do one or both moves for a -4. Werner's still got a good fixture this game week, and it's Southampton at home afterwards, so 2 nice home games for Chelsea. I think it's the positioning that would be concerning for Werner owners, but also, as highlighted, Christian Pulisic back. Won't play tomorrow, but when he is back, he's going to go and play on the left. Presumably, that's going to free Werner to go back through the middle. So, might well be worth holding on to him. I think if I'd have held through this long, I'd possibly at the stage where I might still be holding. I think the majority of us would agree that probably Raul Jimenez and Danny Ings look like better options this game week, but it doesn't mean that Timo Werner can't return. It wouldn't be under consideration for captaincy, I would say that. On Mitrovic, look, Fulham are bad, but if Fulham get the right balls into the box, Mitrovic will score goals. He's had good efforts again against Aston Villa on Monday. The thing is, he gets himself in between the posts in the right areas to threaten, and he is a handful if the ball comes in and is correct. Do I think Fulham will score this weekend? At the moment, generally speaking, it's quite hard to imagine Fulham scoring and not conceding goals in any game at the moment, unless something dramatically changes for them in the next 72 hours of this transfer window. But Mitrovic will be their talisman. He will get 10 plus goals, I would have thought, during this season, and it's okay. I don't think that any of them are panic moves to be doing -4s or anything like that, personally. I wouldn't move to Wood this weekend, I don't think. Fixture at Newcastle's okay, but, I mean, is Wood more likely to score than Mitrovic? I don't think there's a lot in that, so I wouldn't be considering that move. And you wouldn't move to Adams, Eric. You've already got him. So hang on, my friend. Or unless you haven't got and you want to buy, I wouldn't go and buy Che Adams now, I don't think. But I think the owners who've got him should give him this last chance, definitely. FPL Cobbler says, afternoon, mate, planning on wildcarding during the international break, so looking at a 1-week punt transfer. Mitrovic to Antonio, worth it? Nah, not for me, I don't think. Look, I wouldn't particularly expect either to return. Mitrovic at Wolves, Antonio at Leicester. I'd probably favour Antonio slightly, but is that worth it? That the best 1-week transfer punt you can find? I think I'd be looking more at the higher price guys and see what you can find there, or working in like an Ings or a Jimenez, for example. So nah, I wouldn't force through that move as a 1-week punt, mate. Jack Mehoff says, if you had both Kevin De Bruyne and Raheem Sterling, which I do, who would you cap? I'm leaning Sterling. Pirlo's pen. I see what you've done to me there. I won't get done again. I'm leaning Sterling due to the amount of big chances Leeds give up. You're a fucking star. I saw your profile picture, Pirlo, and I thought, hang on a minute, someone's got the same profile picture. Yeah, I just completely missed it. You've done me there, mate. We're all going to have you in the Slack channel. We're not going to have you to jack me off, put it that way. I think for me, it's more about De Bruyne and positioning, genuinely. So I expect KDB to play high tomorrow, and that's the paramount thing for me. So if De Bruyne plays in a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1 tomorrow, which is possible, then I've probably made a big mistake and should have been captaining someone else. So my instinct is De Bruyne's position is the absolute key on this. Leeds, if they try and empty the midfield and play that 4-1-4-1 system that they played against Liverpool, Liverpool don't have the midfielders that break through lines and get into support on the edge of the box. The front three stay narrow, tight, dead. It's all then about getting the full-back side. City setup is different. They'll play through you, right? So De Bruyne driving at that Leeds defence is going to be a different challenge for them to what they would have experienced against Liverpool. That's why I favour it. I've said again this morning on the Patreon podcast that we did on our differential show that genuinely think Leeds might beat them. But I also think it's just as likely that City might give them a good hiding. And therefore, the ceiling of my expectation would be that, for me, Kevin De Bruyne's the best choice. If I had both, I would still go De Bruyne. I'm probably haunted by Norwich last game of the season. We all thought Raheem Sterling, right? Kevin De Bruyne, highest FPL point scorer of the season. Blindingly obvious, but we overlook, right? I know what you're saying. But Sterling will probably play as central striker. He obviously had chances on the breakaway against Burnley the other night, but I'm not sure that Leeds are going to give that up in the same way in the central areas. I think it will be a back four, and I think it will be a little bit tighter. It's that midfield area between midfield and defence. Can they get help to Calvin Phillips when they're without the ball? That's the area that concerns me about Leeds this weekend. So for me, it would still be De Bruyne. It's personal preference. I'm also someone who prefers the consistency, which I think he brings. Sterling will have patches where you feel like he becomes a must-own, where he scores like 6 goals in 4, and he will have a little spell like that. Then he'll have spells where he gets like 2 and 8, and you don't want anything of him. De Bruyne just keeps ticking over. Against sides who want to play offensively against Man City, he almost stands out better for me. So for me personally, I think Kevin De Bruyne is the best captaincy option of all players this weekend, because I think the ceiling is massive. Angus McPhail says, hi James, thoughts on Europa League draws for the English-British teams? I can't pretend I paid too much attention to it, Angus, other than what Tottenham's draw was. But Tottenham's draw was very good. So Tottenham have got Ludogorets from Bulgaria, Lask from Austria, and Antwerp from Belgium. So Belgium and Austria, short journeys. Yes, thumbs up, like that. Ludogorets, Bulgaria, it's not too bad. You know, it's not a Ukraine or an Israel journey or Kazakhstan or anything like that. So that's okay. We can't complain about that too much. It's a comfortable draw in the sense that we should be able to field a second string team and comfortably get out of that group, I should imagine. Arsenal will feel similar. Leicester can definitely get out of their group. Celtic getting AC Milan is interesting. For Dundalk, great for them to get Arsenal. And Rangers are the standard Liège and someone else. They'll probably be borderline whether they go through or not, actually. But Rangers and Celtic have got a good chance of progressing. Dundalk will find it very difficult, but the fact they're getting to play Arsenal is obviously great for them. FTLOL podcast. Hi James, what would you need to see if you'd start recommending Spurs players in FPL? 2 words for you on that, mate. Gareth Bale, I should imagine. This week's been promising. It's been good. I thought it was really important on Tuesday to come out and criticise the players on the podcast rather than the manager. It wasn't a criticism on the manager. It was a criticism of they should have gone and got the second goal and were pissing about with it. Go and finish the team off. But otherwise, the performance in the first half against Newcastle was great, right? We could have won 2 or 3 games in that period. The Chelsea performance in the second half was good because this was the first time I genuinely felt he keeps shouting, didn't he? Press, press, press. This time, and important that Lamela was on the pitch, we did press. We gave them everything we had in that second half. Effort was great. And then last night was a car crash game of football where we looked like we were going to score every time we went forward. Maccabi Haifa, they were a decent side when they got into a final third on the ball. They could play. They were under clear instruction to shoot at Joe Hart on site, right? It's proven by the first goal. Screamer that he... his name's fucking forgot me, but the fellow who scored the first goal, good little player, actually. They couldn't defend. Them with Fulham would be a car crash football match. So pleasing week. Had we held on against Newcastle, it would have been a great week, right? Don't have to worry about the Carabao now till Europa League group stage is finished, so we can target winning that potentially between Europa League group stage and Europa League knockout period. So that gives us a real chance in that competition when it comes round. The draw is okay against Stoke as well. So it's been a good week, and the performances have been better. I mean, the sixth goal yesterday, Kane's hat-trick goal, is worth going to find if you haven't seen it, but make sure you see the whole move. And it's that move that really frustrates me about Tottenham, because it's so good. It's an absolutely brilliant goal in terms of passing through lines, breaking quickly, all on the deck from back to front. Brilliant, brilliant goal. And why I get frustrated is because we don't play that way enough. And I think the capabilities are there. It's possible that now with Reguilon, Doherty in the fullback positions, Bale being added to Son and Kane, that offensively in certain games, we're going to go for it. And at that stage, Spurs attacking assets do interest me. Gareth Bale could make a complete mockery of that 9.5 million price. Genuinely, that's my belief. I know a lot of people think, oh, he can't be higher priced than Heung-min's son. I wrote an article for our advanced tier patrons, a second part on Gareth Bale last night, saying like his numbers are fucking phenomenal, mate. You know, he's got 105 goals for Real Madrid. It was no flop. He did great. And his final season at Spurs was great. We know that he doesn't have quite the pace and athleticism to do the things that he was doing 7 years ago. But he's evolved as a player. He's more creative now. I think he gets just as many assists as he got back then, if not more. And he's shooting. I mean, you don't want to give him a shot goal, do you? Because he'll shoot from anywhere. He's got ridiculous power. So Gareth Bale will interest me, as will Heung-min's son. And to be honest, at the way he's playing at the moment, so will Harry Kane. Only 6 goals and 6 assists so far this season. Not bad, eh? Hugh Jass said, who would you sell to get Robertson in? Anyone, Hugh. His options are Reece James or Roman Saiz. Christ. See, if I was buying one right now, I'd probably buy Reece James. But the flip of that is you'd probably rather sell Reece James. Does that make sense? I've also got a nice little run where you would hope there could be some consistent clean sheets. Saiz is obviously a threat from set pieces. Reece James, 6 chances created against West Brom's hugely impressive for a defender who doesn't get an attacking return and concedes 3 goals and gets 1 bonus point. Speaks volumes, I think. I would probably want to buy Reece James, but because of the attacking output, where Saiz is probably going to give you a bit more defensively at the moment and retains a threat, I wouldn't really want to sell either. I mean, have you got Trent and Van Dijk as well? I'd probably be looking for a different solution here, because I think they're both very decent options. Alex Perry says, hi, James. Would you take Richarlison out for Ings as that security will start with Richarlison doubtful? If Richarlison can play tomorrow, he'll play, particularly as Gomez and Allen are both out as well. It's going to be important for them to try and get him on the pitch. No, I wouldn't. I would keep hold of Richarlison, actually, I think. Alex Turner says, hi, James. Who has the best chance of clean sheets over the next 2-3 game weeks, excluding top 6, in your opinion, please? Or just who you like defensively? It'd probably be Wolves, I should think. They've got a great little fixture run where you can see clean sheets. That at West Ham last week felt like a real anomaly. It was just a really, really bad day where you had perfect storm time together for West Ham in terms of their defensive shape. Was frustrating to Wolves. I described West Ham as wolves in wolves. Fulham on, kind of wolves. So I think Wolves. Neil Thompson, afternoon, James. Are we expecting another week of chaos and confusion and tears of despair, or finally some joy? Werner hat-trick should go some way to help him with that for you, he says. Why are we having tears and despair after game weeks 2 and game week 3? It's the story, isn't it? Oh, everyone's failing, etc. My overall rank, right, is abysmal at the moment. 3.8 million or something. I don't know, something like that. I also don't care about it at the moment, and neither should you particularly. I've scored 57 and 58 net over the last 2 game weeks. Okay, it's not what I want it to be. It's not a fucking disaster. While everybody's wild carding around me. Nah, it's early doors. This is another reason why for me, wildcard early was never under consideration because my opinions have changed from last week and the week before, and they're going to change again over this international break. It's not enough information for me. He's got teams still buying new players. Leicester, I still want to work out the whole James Justin and Castagne thing when Ricardo Pereira comes back. So many things I haven't got the information for. That's why a wild card wasn't a consideration for me. Listen, if it's tears and despair, as they say down the bookies, when the fun stops, stop. Right? If you're not enjoying it, don't play no more. Wesley Thomas, Joe Gomez and TAA. What about him, Wesley? You asked me to buy one. It's never going to be anyone other than TAA, is it? Ash says, hi, James. What's the story behind George Mendes, Mourinho and the Doherty transfer? And is it a potential financial loophole in FFP? Okay, so here's what I think. I think Mourinho was desperate for a right back. He's called his mate. He says, do you know what? We can probably get Doherty out of Wolves. In return to Wolves, Mendes throws Wolves some more Portuguese players like they haven't got enough. In terms of it being a loopholes to FFP, no, I don't particularly think so, Ash. I'm suspicious about the transfer fee, but also having watched Doherty for a few games now, I'm not suspicious about it because he hasn't played very well so far for us. Hello, I love. Would you hang tight with Chris Wood or bring in DCL? Well, I've got Chris Wood and he's staying. I wouldn't be able to make that transfer for a -4 because I wouldn't have the funds. But I think even if I could, I probably wouldn't. Chris Wood's next to Newcastle and West Brom, and he could well return in them. So DCL has got Brighton tomorrow. Obviously, he could return. He can return against Liverpool in game week 5, but actually, I prefer Chris Wood over the next two. Neil Thompson says, keeping Werner for this week. I went Martial to Ings. I was contemplating Werner to Jimenez, but not sure it's worth the hit. I'd agree. It's probably not. Wesley Thomas, Ziyech, question. Unavailable for this weekend. Could well be back for game week 5, Wesley. Antonio Gitto, howdy, James. How you are? Well, I am well, thank you. I am this close to doing Werner to Ings, but something is holding me back. Reckon I'm just being stubborn holding him for the next 2 fixtures. Well, it's Chelsea against Southampton in that second fixture. I think it's okay, mate. Wesley, you're about to get muted, pal. Edwin Gran, what to do with Podence? So on Podence, decision tomorrow on whether he plays or not on Sunday. My instinct would be, and it's little more than an instinct, that he probably does play. Therefore, it's a hold. Static's calling me a legend. Thank you, Static. Kieran Pitt, afternoon, James. Enjoying the lovely British weather, mate. It feels like football weather. It's been absolutely teeming down for the majority of the day in London. And I don't think that's going to... I mean, it's not actually raining at the moment, but it's going to come back down at any moment. It's grim. It's grey. It's miserable. It's football weather. I love it. Arif Echo says, hi, James. How important is the duration of contracting every football player for FPL perspective? Because there are different results between Lundstrom and Fraser last season. Wow, you're going on one isolated case there, aren't you? No, I wouldn't read into the length of the player's contract affecting me on an FPL decision. I think you could see that contract situation last year affected Ryan Fraser's performances. But nah, I wouldn't read anything into that. Andres says, which one would you play this week? Dyer, Ayling, or Souček? So I've got Souček as first sub at the moment. Charlie Taylor is second. Luke Ayling as third. I wouldn't pick Eric Dyer over any of them. So the choice would be Souček. Optimus Prime, Liverpool lineup. Well, you want me to predict it? Okay. Alisson, Trent, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson, Fabinho, Wijnaldum, Keita, Salah, Firmino, Mane. Mikey2908, hi. Did a -4 Werner to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Son to Sterling, struggling on cap, but think I'm going to go Sterling. False. Absolutely fine, Mikey. Absolutely fine. FPL captain's in, my graphics hero. He'll be on the graphics tomorrow for the deadline stream at 10 a.m. on YouTube. And we're working on something to perhaps add something to those graphics ahead of game week 5 as well. Hope you're well, Chris. Shout out. Ritwick 1998, Martial and Taylor out for Robertson and Wilson from -4. Wilson blowing a bit there. Callum Wilson's had 2 shots on target this season, scored twice, won a penalty. Newcastle have had 3 shots on target so far this season. I don't think I really want to be investing in their attacking players at the moment. But anything that genuinely gets you Andy Robertson is good with me. Talking of Andy's, Leeds correspondent is in. Andy Mine, hello, mate. Good afternoon, James. Score prediction for Bielsa v Pep showdown tomorrow. I did this on Patreon podcast this morning, so I'll repeat what I said on there and what I said earlier in the week. Generally, Suj asked me to pin down a correct score prediction. My correct score prediction is 2-1 to Leeds. I genuinely think you could beat them. Most of you picked up on the tactical orgasm comment. I can't wait for the game. I'm pleased again, as when you played Liverpool, Andy, that the game is after Tottenham play, so I can enjoy the game without having my weekend already ruined. However, I do believe it is just as likely that Man City will destroy you. So, yeah, I think I can see Leeds winning 2-1. I can also see City winning about 4-0. Neither score would surprise me. I'm really looking forward to the game. Stephen Hammond says, afternoon, James. Hope life's treating you well. Werner, Adams, Mitro, front 3. Make a transfer this week or give Werner one more chance before shipping for DCL or Jimenez. Well, if you want to ship for Jimenez, do it now. If that's the player that you want, do Jimenez now would be my advice on that. Red Gooner's in. Hello, Ray. Hope you're well, mate. Antonio says, I'm fed up with Ramsdale, as is Suj, who I think owns him too. I'm thinking of just downgrading to Ryan at 4.5 and set and forget. Reckon it's better off? Yes. In short, one of the reasons I picked Matt Ryan was for this period. Game week 4 to game week 16. They've kind of got a clear run. I think hardest game they've got paper is, I think they've got Liverpool at home to play and Tottenham away. Those are the only 2 fixtures against the big 6 between now and when we have to use that first wild card. So that was part of my thinking when I went Matt Ryan at the start. I noticed Emi Martinez has gone up to 4.6. If you want to, paying that 0.1 extra is absolutely fine if you prefer that. I think those are the 2 best shots. Yes, I would probably move Ramsdale on. Also, with that, if you do want to go back to Sheffield United, probably Ampadu or Robinson at cheaper than Ramsdale's price are probably going to emerge as a regular starter, one of them. And that's something to watch in the coming weeks. Sheffield United have a dog's run of fixtures. They've got Fulham in game week 5, but then it's Liverpool, City and Chelsea back to back. So I think it's move on, come back, reassess Sheffield United around about game week 9 or so. Tomo FPL Blade's going to be on next Thursday's Clash of the Correspondents, so I'll get his opinion on things like Ampadu versus Robinson and his opinion on Ramsdale, who I've said on the podcast has underwhelmed for me so far. We'll speak about that with him next week. Dylan Fowler says, hi James, hope you're well. Just wondering who you'd bench out of Reece James, Wilfried Zaha, Daniel Podence, Roman Saiz, or Chris Wood. I've also got Jimenez, who I'll be starting. I mean, no shit. Wouldn't be Jimenez, would it? Who would you bench from that? Bloody hell. It's not an easy choice. It's possibly Reece James, actually. Palace on the counter could score tomorrow. So on that, it's possibly Reece James. Alex Turner, bench decision between risking a Podence start or start Doherty. What would your thoughts be? I would start Podence. Gary Mansell, TAA, a captain option this weekend. If not, why not? TAA is a captain option whenever Liverpool have a good fixture and you anticipate a clean sheet because he can get an attacking return in any game. So, yeah, TAA will probably appear on my top 10, probably towards the bottom of it in terms of options on my stream tomorrow. I haven't formalised that list yet. But I think, yeah, Liverpool well capable of a clean sheet at the weekend. So, yeah, TAA is a very, very decent option. If I didn't have De Bruyne and there weren't the excellent attacking options this weekend of the likes of Jimenez and Ings, then I would be keener on that. I think it's the sort of fixture that's right, actually, for a Trent captaincy. Tread FPL, all right, mate. Who to bench? Justin, Click, or Bamford? It's probably Justin. Again, I expect West Ham to probably score. I think Leicester will probably shade that, but I think it's quite a difficult fixture. Probably be Justin. I'd possibly go to chance with Click and Bamford. Can't leave Click out. It's fucking penalty taker. And Bamford's got 3 and 3. Scored against Liverpool, didn't he? So there's nothing to say he can't score against City. Stu MC, hole in Maguire's ankle. Yeah. There's nothing he plays. That's nothing he plays like as he has a hole in his head, relegated with hole. 51 EPL goals shipped for Leicester, nearly 50 in all comps for United, and 5 in 2 Prem this year. Someone in the chat doesn't like Harry Maguire. Dylan Farrell, also personally hope we manage to get some movement on a tactical analysis pod. Can't wait. Dylan, I did one for patrons last week, mate. Where you been? Get back on the old Patreon, mate. Adam Keenor, hi James, hope you're well. What do you think of these Liverpool corona fears? Sounds like some idiot spreading rumours to cause a panic to me. Yeah, that's probably it, Adam. There's nothing confirmed. I think if there's genuine COVID cases, then Liverpool will probably have to confirm something at some point. Admittedly, that might not be till tomorrow night, as the game's not till Sunday. But they're probably not just going to rock up at Villa Park on Sunday evening and then you find Trent, who's one of the names was potentially mentioned, and a couple of others who have got COVID. So, no. If you don't know the source, don't trust it. And if you're not sure whether you should trust the source, probably trust those with a blue tick. I don't have a blue tick. Marshall said I shouldn't get one. Marshall matters. So Brewster to Sheffield. Yes, that looks to be the case, mate. From an FPL perspective, doesn't appeal to me straight away. Yes, 4.5 million. You know, being that quandary every week. Do you play him? Do you not play him? Fixtures aren't brilliant to start with. So it's another one. Come back and reassess game week 9, 10. He is not going to fly up in price between now and then. I don't believe. You still be able to pick him up at well below 5 million if you want to go back to it. Stu MC says Wolves will control them, plus the fullbacks will stifle any crosses. Speaking on the Wolves Fulham game. Chris Duckworth, afternoon, James, thinking of going Mitrovic to Ings for a -4. Logical move or too knee-jerk? I think that's okay, Chris. Big fan of Danny Ings. He's in my side. If I was in the position the other way round, would I take a -4 for it? Probably not. But what I would say is, if I'd had neither, there's a good chance I would have bought Danny Ings before Jimenez this week, if that helps at all. So I'm pleased I got both. I'm not sure if a lot of people have got both or not, because they're obviously kind of basically the same price. I don't know if people are going for an either or. I think Jimenez probably over the next 4 game weeks is slightly better. But I think it's very close for this weekend. I suspect Jimenez is the more likely of the two to score, but I suspect Danny Ings is the more likely of the two to get 2 or 3 goals in the game. It's an interesting one. It depends what you want. I probably would do it, Chris, but I think the fact it's a -4 makes it a close score. If it was a straight free transfer, then yeah, all day long. Manj says, currently have Justin and Mitchell in my team, but worried as they are backups to Pereira and VVA. Should a transfer be made? VVA is obviously PVA. Worth putting in Pereira for St. Maximin for next game week. I have the money. And should a transfer worth putting in Pereira for St. Max? You've lost me there, man. I've got to be honest. Sorry, mate. FPL bro, do you think Foden will start? Yes, probably. The fact that he's not in the England squad should probably help with the idea of him getting game week 4 and game week 5 minutes. So I'd say probably yes. Lamichi says, would Souček be a viable 4th midfielder in a 3-4-3? Yes, of course. He's viable 4th, 5th midfielder, either. Thomas Baker, hello, James. Best replacements long-term for Sahar. Excuse me. Harvey Barnes is in around a similar price, isn't he? He feels like he's the next big bandwagon about to happen, Harvey Barnes, I think. So that would probably be the shout. Castigator OP says Marnie, Salah, Robbo or Robbo, Trent, Salah. It's always going to be the option with Robbo and Trent, mate. Cobbler's laughing at Pirlo. Alex Gallibrave, hi James. Would you take a -4 to take out Mitrovic and Son to bring in Ings and Foden? No, I'm not. I wouldn't say I regret buying Phil Foden this week, but I don't think he's a player I'd be making part of a hit this week. I suspect with what City have got numbers-wise that might plays on the left again. I don't see him getting a return from the left. I think he would have got from the right, or if he was playing centrally. So the answer to that for me would be a no. Actually, I think. Seymour says bring Robbo in for a -4 or hold until the international break. Well, we need to know you're selling for a start, but if you ever ask me about Robertson or Trent, I say this every week. The answer is always going to be yes. Anna says, if you had KDB and Salah this game week, would you still captain KDB? Yes. Although I'd probably make Salah the second best choice this week. I think if I had Salah and Sterling, I'd go Salah, if that helps. Patrick Lawson says, Son to Sterling for a -4, worth it. Would still captain KDB. That one probably is, yes, because of the potential of the ceiling on that. Our Chavez has got a feeling Jimenez will be a great captaincy option this week. You're not the only one with that feeling. Stephen Hamilton reminded me, Standard Liège, Benfica and Lech Poznan in Rangers Europa League group. Antonio says, after Spurs managed to score 7 goals in Europa League, is a small part of you getting hopeful that this might translate into some attacking returns in the Premier League? Kane especially. Some small part of me, destroy a very big part of me, is hoping for that. Giannis says, hi James, thanks for the great work. Appreciate that, mate. Wesley says, Ryan Brewster guy in Sheffield, amazing, 4.5 million forward. Yeah, cheers Wesley, thanks for the input. Catching up in the chat now where I got done over. Derek says, because I've already sold Mane, Kane and Vardy right before their hauls, that's why. Yeah, so you're selling this week, Derek. He also says it's pretty cold in Michigan. It's nice. James says, different one. Sorry, most likely already asked, but Sonny, what should we do? So what's your strategy? Who are you selling for? It's the first question. So that last night's made me suspicious that some might be available this game week. However, it's also a game you probably wouldn't have expected him to return in. Let's be honest. He's never returned at Old Trafford before, so you probably wouldn't have been expecting anything from that perspective from him. So would you have been happy with the 2-pointer this week? And then you want him for game week 5, which if we're saying he's close for game week 4, we assume he's ready for game week 5. In which case, take the 2 points if you've got it on the bench, maybe. I don't know. But it feels like a lot of money to be leaving in the bank. The thing is, if you sell him, you're probably coming down in value, I think. You're looking down. You'll start looking down towards Harvey Barnes, James Rodriguez, that sort of thing. So that's going to be an individual circumstance for every scenario. If someone's sitting there like your person who asked before and said they can do Son to Sterling, then I think, yeah, fuck it, balls out, go for it. FPO telling Josh this afternoon, James, how are you feeling about Spurs United at the weekend? How do you see the game going? Well, the performances this week have increased my confidence. What I saw from United against Brighton has also increased it, although we will struggle to challenge them and play through lines in the same ways that the Brighton are very, very good at doing. But Tottenham are now trying to do it. I expressed on Tuesday's podcast that I'm concerned about United's energy in midfield areas at the moment. I'm just not sure that we've got the same energy after the week we've had to try and capitalise on it. It looks shaky defensively. If Son is fit and Son starts, then I think we could win the game, actually. I think we're probably good value to get a point. It's a tough call because their front boys will definitely do damage to us as well. Absolutely certain. So, listen, it could be a good game. It could be an awful game. I would probably take a draw if it was offered to me, but I think we're at the stage now that for a club like ours, we shouldn't look at Manchester United away and think that a draw is acceptable. I think the only two places we ever go where we should accept that a draw is okay is Manchester City and Liverpool, to be honest. So I want us to go there and try and win. We can do that by playing counter-attacking football, which often against Manchester United is the most sensible thing to do. So if he goes in very defensive at the weekend and tries to counter on United, you won't catch me criticising on Monday unless we do that counter-attacking very, very badly. Ben O'Connell, thoughts on #United? Well, massive, aren't they? So it's been well reported that they've got more YouTube subscribers than not only just me, but even the likes of several big Premier League clubs. They've got their niche, they've got their market. Whether they'll ever have the loyalty to have fans go and follow them if they rise through the leagues, unknown. But they've one person, I forget the guy's name, but he had a vision to make this happen, and he's proved extremely successful. And they're now a very, very recognisable brand. I don't know what number of followers they've got on Twitter, but it's shitloads. And I think YouTube have got maybe it's 500,000 subscribers. Maybe I might have those numbers wildly inaccurate, but yeah, look, it's a very different story. It's something fresh. It's up with the times of social media. I don't particularly have an issue with it. The big problem they'll find is, like I said, when they rise through the leagues, who's actually going to pay 20 quid to go and watch them and stuff? But I don't know. Perhaps it's the sort of way the football's heading, right? When they do Soccer Aid and stuff at Old Trafford, it always seems to sell out and stuff, right? And it's often it's not many football fans as such going. It's people that are interested in these people through social media or because they're pop stars or soaps or whatever and stuff like that as well. So it's a fascinating one to follow. I suspect, Ben, we probably will do a podcast on them at some point, I should think. Derek says, for my part, James, above, I'd have a hard time selling Son right now if he's only out for a week or even two. Mohammed said, hi, James. Is it just me or Harvey Barnes is about to go off and haul his next two fixtures versus West Ham and Villa? Certainly capable, mate. We've spoken about the numbers. Derek, Lamptey, James and DCO in my team. Bench Lamps. Lamps was in Frank Lampard. What do you mean? I presume you mean Tariq Lamptey. Benching Tariq Lamptey is probably the right call there. Akil says, sorry if you covered this, but what do you think about Son's injury? Is it mind games from Jose? I don't think it's mind games. I don't think so. I think he was almost apologising in his press conference the other day because he was saying he might make it, actually. I do not think it's mind games, the fact that he's left him out. He's only played 45 minutes in the 3 games we played over 5 days. I think the guy genuinely has an injury. It's just possible that it's not the concern that it really originally was. I don't think there's mind games involved in that. I think if he rocked up at Old Trafford on Sunday and Josie hadn't said anything, then you would say, yeah, potentially. Maneuver says, would you use Son to Salah for a hit? Yes, possibly. Callie says, should I pick any Brighton players? I mean, how long have you got, mate? You want me to do a podcast on Brighton? Yansky says, hi, James. Do we think either of Burnley or Newcastle will blank, have both Wood and Wilson and a Burnley defence too? Benching headache? Yeah, a little bit, but don't overly stress about it because it could comfortably be 1-0 either way. I predicted this morning on the Patreon podcast 1-0 to Newcastle. It's what I've predicted back. Could easily be 1-0 the other way. Could easily be 0-0. Could easily be 2-2. Don't spend too long thinking about it. Just go with the guy that you think's got the higher ceiling. So possibly Wilson is the one that's probably got the highest ceiling. Derek says, thoughts on Rashford United's attack versus Spurs this week. I mean, look, Rashford obviously scored twice against in the league last year, and he was outstanding on the night in that game in December last year. Very, very good. Could have returned in the game at Tottenham during the restart period as well. That front three will give us problems, no doubt about it. TJ Dara, hi James, with the amount of penalties going around, would a 3-5-2 including penalty takers, yada, 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 etc., new normal in FPL? Well, we hope that referees are going to be given this license to make some common sense decisions starting as early as this weekend. So we'll come back and reassess that. It could be that what we've seen in the first 3 game weeks won't continue. There was another ridiculous penalty, by the way, in the Tottenham game last night. It was completely laughable. Doherty went to go and close someone down. His arm was literally flat by his side. Guy goes to push it past him. It literally hits Doherty like at sort of elbow point. His arm is literally, it's basically hugging his body. Can't go nowhere. Ref gives a penalty. A couple of minutes later, Ben Davies tries to fire in across at the other end. And the ref goes to give a corner. He gets blocked by the Maccabi Haifa player right in his body. And when you see the replay, his arms are in his body and it does hit his arms. You could argue that that's moving his arms, oddly enough, into an unnatural position. Actually bringing his arms into his body is unnatural. But he wasn't going to give the pen. And all the Tottenham players were like, come on, you just give them one. And he give the penalty, didn't they? Neither of them were penalties. Fucking ridiculous. We need to get rid of that shit. Anyway. Perlo's Pen, hello, mate. Nice to see you again. Will Bell make Son a better or worse option? Just thinking he might lose some of the free kicks, corners, etc. It makes him a better option, without question. Yes, he will lose cut the corners. He doesn't take free kicks anyway. Sometimes from wide areas, in fairness. And he possibly still will as a right-footed player, right? It depends on the angle, what kind of corner you want. I actually think Son might still be on corners quite a lot. And the very simple theory on the back of that is Gareth Bale is a fucking beast in the air, right? He can score headed goals these days. So I actually think Son will probably stay on corners. In terms of, does it make him a better option? His space has got to be easier to find now. You almost look at that front three and go, which one would you want to leave yourself one-on-one with? We think instinctively probably think Kane. Listen, you leave yourself one-on-one with Harry Kane, he'll score. So space-wise, it should just really, really help massively. So I think it would make him a better option. For each of them, Son, Kane and Bale, they will make each other better options. I'd be convinced about that. And until you've seen them play a number of times, you're probably not going to know where you want to go with it financially from an FPL perspective, I should imagine. And the problem with that is, by then it's too late. Then Tottenham walk into an extremely difficult November and December period. You might think, I don't know if I want any of that. So I suspect that if Kane or Son plays on Sunday and them do very well, they'll be very well bought during the international break because of the run Tottenham have between game weeks 5 and 8. Following that, if any of them goes off big in game week 5, there'll be mass buys for the individual that performs best as well. Patrick Lawson says, Maddison, Barnes or Under, will the latter two get consistent minutes? I would definitely be buying Harvey Barnes if I was going for one of them at the moment. I can't profess to have particularly seen Kenji Sunda. I know he's an attacking winger and he's going to be a threat. James Maddison, I don't really know at the moment what that role in the team is. If Brendan Rodgers starts leaving Harvey Barnes out of that team, genuinely, he needs his head examined. He's just been called up to the England squad as well. Thoroughly deserved call up, by the way. Harvey Barnes has got to be in that team at the moment. Good friend Tom Campbell's in. Hope you're well today, mate. Says, hey, mate, thanks for this last week. Quick one from me. Can you remind me of the quiz question from this week? World Cup goalkeepers in the Prem. Was thinking Cesar would be an answer, but clearly not. No, so Julio Cesar didn't play in the 2002 final, I don't think, did he? But the question was, you don't have to do the answers because it's on the patrons and I don't want spoilers. The question was, how many goalkeepers have started and won World Cup finals who have played in the Premier League? Someone can check from you the Brazil goalkeeper was in 2002. It was either Tafarel or Dida, I think, was in goal for Brazil. Kieran Thompson debating going big at the back after international. What's your thought on this? And will the goal stop considering TAA, Robbo, Coleman, Saish, James? I think, Kieran, in my opinion, that's not big at the back. It's kind of halfway there. Big at the back to me is TAA, Robbo and Van Dijk. That's my idea of a big at the back. Yes, but what you're talking about is playing a regular back five. I'm not so keen on Everton defensively, to be honest. I mean, if you're going to go big, you're not going Coleman anyway. You're going Luka Dean. Roman Saiz is not the most expensive option from Wolves. Reece James is one of the cheapest, although best options defensively from Chelsea. So what you want there, I think if you go down that route with those players, you're going to have weeks where those guys defensively are going to think, oh, fucking hell, bad fixture, don't want to play them. So you want your 12th player to be someone like Souček, for example. Shane Mibb says, will Vardy start? The impression given from Brendan Rodgers' press conference is yes. George H, thoughts on Traore instead of Podence for Wolves' good fixtures? Not keen till I know where he's going to play. And I know it's easy right now to think, well, Nelson Semedo's in, he goes and plays an attacking front three. Does he? I want to see more from Wolves. So now, if I was going in that midfield area, I'd come down to Podence. FPL Bulldog says Egan versus Mitchell this week only. Both feel like 1 point. Yeah, Tyreek Mitchell also felt like a 1 point when they played away to Manchester United as well. You are right, though. They both feel like 1 point. I would possibly pick Mitchell, but I don't think it will matter. Mohammed says, I have Sterling, Ings, Jimenez and Salah. It's a headache to decide on which player to captain. Any help, James? Yeah, Mohamed Salah. Jonas Helsing, greetings, James. Take a last minute -4. It's not last minute, mate. You got like 20 hours yet. Take a last minute -4 to get in Jimenez for Werner or give the German one last chance. Raul Jimenez, I think, will score on Sunday. I don't think he'll score more than 1. You probably need him to score 2 for that hit to be worthwhile. And Werner to blank. No, I'd stick with Werner, I think. Castigator says Barnes, Rose, Zaha. I don't know what that means. Rio says, hi, James. What about Trossard? Is he good? Yes, of course he's good. It's a great option, Leandro Trossard, at his price range. Very, very good. I wouldn't put anybody off buying him, genuinely. Another hoop says, fighting talk. When are you and Suj going to get your act together and start competing in the doubles league? Probably never, mate. You know we're no good at this FPL malarkey. Stewie Bryan says, hey, James, wouldn't Man City wingers have highest potential against Leeds? KDB might play deeper. If that's what you think, Stewie, that's okay. My opinion is that KDB plays in the 10 position and the wingers are likely to stay quite wide in the sense that I think it will be Foden left and Mahrez right. And Kevin De Bruyne getting close to Sterling centrally. So I would disagree with that, but I might read that completely wrong. FPL Bulldog, what would you have to see before investing in City defence? I want Laporte. Consistent clean sheets. Consistent clean sheets. The thing with Manchester City is, and a lot of us, I spoke about this, a lot of us were done this on Sunday, thought about Laporte 20 minutes into that game thinking, okay, now this is easy. Laporte most weeks is going to look like a banker, 6 points, isn't it? And he can score from set pieces, then it's double points, etc. And then before the game's finished, they've conceded 5, and you're like, never fucking doing that again. I need to see how good Ruben Diaz is the first thing to say. I need to see him in that partnership with Laporte, which will make a huge difference to them. I need to see improvement in Ederson, who hasn't played well as a goalkeeper, as in keeping the ball out of the net, for, in my opinion, over a year. I don't know why that is, but I think Alisson is well clear of him now as the best keeper in the league. So I need to see plenty of things from Man City. I need to have the trust and consistency and think that when they're 3-0 up, they're not going to have a sloppy moment. That's generally what I would need. Otherwise, I might as well have like 4.5 rotations and stuff. Wesley says, hi, James. Is Nelson Semedo a good option? Yes, he might be, but probably not on that performance at West Ham, but we'll give him a pass as it was his debut. Jigs John, hi, James. I have one FT and also have Son, Podence and Werner in my team. Do you think I should hold my transfer? So I'll have 2 FTs for the international break. Well, that's up to you, Jigs. But on the general idea, Suj's rolling, for example, well, he said he would. You can never be sure with him. The idea of rolling an extra transfer over the international break, if it's viable and doesn't leave you in the shit this week, is a very, very good idea. I made a transfer last Saturday in Jimenez for Martial, which was clear and obvious for me to make my team better. And it was, I'd spoken about it on this stream last week, that it was a possible move. I did the same on the Saturday. So it was very clear for me watching Brighton and Manchester United that was a transfer I wanted to make. In different circumstances, had Jimenez had a very difficult fixture this week, I potentially would have been rolling myself. So I think for those who have nothing that they're desperate to do this week, then yeah, I think rolling is a very, very good idea. Potentially puts you in a strong position on the other side. You've got transfer window closes, internationals. You've got teams like England and Ireland playing 3 games. Wales, another one, I think. 3 games being played by many international teams during this break as well. To get the information from all that, risk of injuries, increased fitness, form, players returning from injury, the transfer window shut in. I mean, so much information to be gained that, yes, I think those who are in any thoughts to roll should roll. Jigs also says he has Ayling, Basuma and Ferguson on the bench. Also, you think Doherty will start this week, want to move him on to Robertson at some point. Yeah, there's no reason for me to think that Matt Doherty will not start for Tottenham on Sunday, but if you can move it on, yeah. I mean, move it on. You kind of asked about rolling, but yeah, if you can make that in one free transfer, I'd be very interested. Anand says, good morning, James. If you had Willian, Podence and Costa, who do you replace and with and spit it out, James? And with who? I'd possibly none yet, actually. Helder Costa's had good returns so far. Willian's going to be on a lot of set plays for Arsenal and stuff. Decent fixture this game week. I would possibly be looking at that to roll. Genuinely, I think that's another good example where you might decide on the other side of the international break that you've got a clearer understanding of what you want to do with Podence or Costa. You might want to come down from one of them, move Willian up to someone at more like Son's level, or move to Christian Pulisic, for example. Another good case where I think roll. I think that all of them could do quite well this weekend. Don't fear attacking Leeds players playing Man City. Genuinely, play them. Martin Jansen's in. Hello, my friend. Just joined, so sorry if I've already covered similar. With Everton injuries, contemplating dropping James Rodriguez to get Mahrez thoughts. Nah, not for me, Martin. But then you finished like 130th in the world last year, mate, so you shouldn't be asking my opinion. Hugh says, got him good. Great start to the weekend. Congratulations, Hugh. Ray Guna, the tactical orgasm cracked me up this week. Looking forward to the game this weekend. What's been your favourite game to watch recently from a tactical perspective? Leeds at Sheffield United. Brilliant. Loved it. Loved it. And Leeds at Liverpool opening day. Loved it. Lamichi says, afternoon, James. For Sky Fantasy Football, Robertson or TAA and Antonio on or Barnes. I presume you're not talking specifically for this weekend because you should not be buying these players this weekend. Even if you've got 2 injured players, let it go. Overhaul to come. On the other side, tough. I think Antonio is a priority for me. OOP is a midfielder in Sky, 8 million, like that. Talisman potentially for West Ham. Harvey Barnes, I spoke about my Sky pod Wednesday, I really would like him for that game. Robertson or TAA almost come behind because I want Van Dijk before I wanted either of those two in that particular format. So if you're asking me, I would probably say TAA and Antonio, but I'm a bit reluctant on that. Medusa says Morris versus Sterling captaincy. That would be Sterling for me. Jack says pretty sure it would be Dida in 2002. Yep, thank you. Nosbit says prediction Maddison will be the next hype train. Thank you for your prediction. And yes, we know. Thank you. Edward Adias says triple Man City midfield. Good luck with that. Harry Redmond, the guy who scored the stunner against Tottenham last night, was not him. Unfortunately, Harry. No. What was his name? Was that Percy or something like that? I can't remember. Good little player though. Victor says, hey James, what is your take on Spurs playing without Son? Thinking of their offence. Severely weakened. Obviously, we'll have to play the game slightly differently. Edward says, lineup. Is it James? Is it Hammers or Foden? Can we, if we're putting James in the chat, guys, can we put Hammers, like use a H, or put James R? Or R James is going to be really helpful for me. Line up Hammers or Foden. I mean, well, I don't even know what that means, Edward. Yeah, they'll probably both start if that's what you're asking me. Jack says Doherty to Castagno for -4. I'm not keen on that. I'd be keen on that as a free transfer the following week. Jack says wanting to move on Ayling before game week 4. Have both him and Dallas plus 0.5 in the bank. Best sub 5.0 defender to switch to or roll transfer and wait for an obvious standout option. I'd wait for the obvious standout, actually. I know you're thinking you want to move Ayling now, but you might see something that's going to change that opinion, genuinely. Ayling he's got, I think he's one of the highest for dribbles defensively at the moment. So you might see something that changes, Jack. I wouldn't rush moving either of them, mate. Ivor says Mane, Morpay, Bamford, or Barnes, Ings, Jimenez. Oh, I love all these ones with lots of options going on. Why do you have so many different options there? The one with Ings and Jimenez. IFC says Mane, Salah, and Robbo, or Trent, Robbo, and Salah. So what you're asking me is Trent or Mane, is what you're asking me, right? Trent. It's always going to be Trent or Robertson if that's the question. Ali Ship, thoughts on Reguilon as an option? You think Mourinho will take fullbacks throughout the season with so many games? I think you're probably going to get Reguilon and Doherty be the favoured first choice after the international break in the league. I still think Ben Davies might play this game week, by the way. But he might decide that he'd rather have Reguilon go up against Greenwood. That's a possibility. I think he could be a very good option. I think you need to see the integration of the whole team when Gareth Bale is a part of it to know what the answer to that question is. Yes, he could be a good option. Genuinely, right now, if you said to me, guns ahead, you've got to buy Reguilon or Doherty, I'd probably buy Reguilon, even knowing that he's probably not going to start this game. That may help with the answer. Frodo says, hi, James, plays Souček or Walker Peters. Walker Peters will be part of my starting 11. And we'll finish with Chris Duran's thoughts on Liverpool defensive triple up. Got TAA and Robbo already and potentially looking for a Doherty replacement. I'm considering it. The one thing I'd highly recommend listening to yesterday's Clash of the Correspondents with Adam Hotcroft and Dan Lord. And I spoke about the fact that I'm considering the treble Liverpool defensively, but we spoke about the idea that, you know, if one of the front three's missing, Jota could suddenly emerge as an incredible option. And obviously that will block you. And that would be the number one reason right now, probably not to go with it. But I'm not against it. Genuinely, it's in my thoughts. I think Van Dijk will score more goals this season than he has in previous seasons. And I think they'll be the 3 highest scoring defenders again. Right, thanks very much, guys. It's coming up to about an hour or so, so we'll leave it there. I wish all of you the very best of luck in game week 4. If you want to catch up on any of the previous content from the week, we obviously did quite a bit on the handball rule on Monday, which has had slight variances since, but me and Suj kind of spoke from a fan perspective as our frustration, why the laws come into effect, and obviously understand it. On Tuesday, we reviewed all the game week 3 action, lots of tidbits in there. We did Sky on Wednesday, and as I just recommended to Chris there, Aston Villa and Liverpool was yesterday's clash of the correspondence with Adam Hocroft and Dan Lord. If you want some more on Liverpool especially, and what to expect from Villa and perhaps position of Ross Barkley, I'd highly recommend having a listen of that as well. Other than that, very best of luck for the weekend. I will be streaming on YouTube again 10 a.m. tomorrow ahead of the 11 a.m. deadline for game week 4. For the benefit of those listening on the audio, cue music please, man child.